I'm Gab, he's Jules. Blue skies over West London. Jules, there's so much going on this weekend. It's not even funny. We have Juventus against Inter. We have Arsenal against Liverpool. First real test for Liverpool this season. Yeah. It's not me talking, it's Arne Slot. Sorry, Milan. Juventus against Inter. How about that? Yeah. But obviously there's one place to start, and it is the Clásico. Real Madrid absolutely road graded in terms of the final score. Finishes 4-0. Lewandowski missed 2 sitters in addition to 2 goals that he scored. It could have easily been 6. Yeah. This game could have taken a different turn in the first half. Look, it's a game of episodes, right? And situations.
Yeah.
Some of those offsides, some of those chances that Real Madrid had, we're down to millimeters, but it doesn't change the fact. And this is maybe a Madridista view. It doesn't change the fact of what happened in the second half. And Flick played an absolute blinder. And I think he needs all the credit in the world for the way he interpreted the game, for the way he changed it with De Jong. You know, initially he blunts them with Fermin Torres running around. Then you have De Jong, you have more control. And the way they kept catching them offside.
Yeah, I mean, the offside trap was obviously super efficient, especially against Mbappe. I think it's as good from Barcelona as it is as bad from Real Madrid not to have adjusted to it. But I think Flick was just outstanding. To be intense in the first half with Fermin Lopez when they had to be intense, and then to have all the control, not all the control, but a lot of control with Frankie de Jong at halftime in the second half was great. The first goal obviously decides everything. If Vini scores his big chance in the first half when he comes inside, that changes everything. But once Barca go 1-0 up, then you know that Real Madrid, who were quite cautious without the ball, not to be done on transition, not like Bayern Munich, for example. After the 1-0, then they have to chase the game, and then they open up. And after that, it's an absolute treat for Barcelona and Rafinha, Lamine, and Lewandowski. So everything just worked perfectly for Barcelona. On another day, it might have been different, but on this day, on Saturday, it was just all going their way.
6 points clear at the top of the table, and obviously they'll almost certainly have the head-to-head. That's huge. There's a lot to say about Hansi Flick and Barcelona, top to bottom. But I think, and I just don't want to be negative here, but I think this was a game in which everything went wrong for Real Madrid.
Pretty much.
And it's not just the mistakes, the Vini chance, Mbappe going offside all the time. Kind of ironic that, you know, on the day there is the presumptive Ballon d'Or winner and the best paid player in the world or thereabouts in Kylian Mbappe. Both those guys do not turn up on the big stage.
Yeah, I think it was more damaging for Kylian, obviously, because it was his first Clásico, because he really wanted to do well and he turned it into an absolute nightmare for him. I think the offsides, he had to be more clever at times in how he makes his run. And for example, there was not enough diagonal runs. It was all very vertical, which is easier for a defensive line to catch you offside. I think the passing was poor because there's a few of the offside where if the ball is released a little bit earlier, he's onside. So it's not all Kylian's fault, but yeah, that can't happen. I mean, it's a record, isn't it? Ibrahimovic and Ciro Immobile, the only 2 other players since Opta gets the stats for offside. I've had 8 in a game. It's outrageous.
I think that's because they probably weren't tracking back when Pippo Inzaghi was playing.
Yeah, that started 10 years ago. True.
One of the indictments I think that you have to chuck at Ancelotti, or some people will chuck at Ancelotti, is that this Madrid side, we're now nearly November, and this is still a team built around moments, right?
Yeah.
A team built around great Courtois saves, and by the way, I think he was missed tonight. A team that's or your great players doing something special at the other end, not just the front 2, but Valverde, Bellingham. He opted for kind of a safety-first approach, essentially, with that 4-4-2.
Yeah.
And it was like the strategy is, well, let's just wait for those 2 guys up there to do something. Is it fair? Should you say that at this stage you need to have more of an identity, more of a way of playing? Or do we give him a pass because Kroos has left and because Modric is literally the oldest player in the history of Real Madrid?
Yeah, but this is... So in the last 6 games, Real Madrid have been outplayed and out XG'd by the opposition. So Celta Vigo, Villarreal, Stuttgart, it was just that bad. And I think there's a problem in the way this team sets up and plays, and that's on Ancelotti.
6 straight games in which they lose the XG battle. This is not supposed to happen. Again, for those who've been under a rock and don't know what expected goals are, essentially it's a way of measuring the quality of the chances created and the quality of chances conceded. It is the single best indicator of where a team will finish over time. Now, that said, we saw this lineup that I referenced before that we had not seen before. This 4-4-2, maybe forced a little bit by the unavailability of Rodrigo, but still very much a choice because you could have played Bellingham in the hole behind the two strikers, for example. You had other options. You're gonna now obviously blew up in Ancelotti's face. It did not work. Equally, I think he felt that he had to try something different because what he was doing in the previous games, even the ones where they got results and they won, wasn't working.
No, I mean, they're still looking. They haven't played well at all season collectively. I mean, individually, Vinicius and Mbappe and others can win a game for you and sort it out for you. But collectively, as a whole, they haven't been playing great, even, together, I mean. And that was so obvious to see, I think, in that game on Saturday, especially compared to some of the movement that Barcelona had in the second half, where it clearly looked like what they work on and the patterns that they have already in that team with Lewandowski and with the two of the 3 midfielders, plus the 2 wingers and Balde as a left back more than Koundé on the other side at right back. All of that showed on Saturday, and we saw nothing from a Real Madrid point of view. I don't want to see Jude Bellingham as a right midfielder in a 4-4-2 because even if I understand why Ancelotti did it, and again, it was to prevent Barca counter-attacking and being very good in transition, which they ended up doing because Real Madrid were chasing the game, as we said earlier. Bellingham as a right midfielder in a flat 4-4-2 doesn't make any sense.
Where do you want to see Jude Bellingham?
Personally, I would want to see him in the heart of midfield, whether he's in a 2 or 3, but this is where he's best. Not behind
Bellingham with Tchouaméni and Valverde, for example.
Exactly. That's it. And a 3, Tchouaméni can sit, and then you have Bellingham as just a box-to-box midfielder with a lot of freedom, and that can put all that power and ability on the ball and everything to the service of his team. On the right-hand side, he spent his time looking at Balde and defending on Balde, and that was it pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, you could have played Valverde there and put Bellingham central, which I think would have, for me, is more reasonable. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. There's people who said, well, Bellingham now sees himself as a 10 and Ballon d'Or and this and that. But it's like, dude, you're third banana on this team right now, right? Yeah. So you've made your name playing in that central midfield position. For the good of the team, if you want to be part of it, I think it's a conversation Ancelotti needs to have.
Yeah.
And maybe he has had. Maybe he hasn't felt the moment is right. I thought that was huge. And the other reason, Bellingham is a very good passer of the ball. In fact, other than Modric, I still think there's more. I know Tchouaméni gets killed for his passing in the Spanish press. I think that's a bit unfair. I think Tchouaméni can be a good passer.
Diagonals are good.
But it's obvious that after Modric is Bellingham in this team, right? If you're talking about putting the ball where you want it, among the group of midfielders. And this takes me to my next point. All those Mbappe offsides, you were critical of the timing of the pass and stuff like that, or even just inventing, seeing a pass, seeing that kind of creativity from midfield. That came from Kroos last year. He's gone. Yeah. You've got Modric now, 39 years old. He started in midweek. Probably needed to start in midweek because that was a game at home against Borussia Dortmund leading into the Clásico. You can't screw it up. They felt he couldn't start this game. You can't be relying on a guy who's 39 years old, right?
No, but he should have started this game. For me, every day. The quality in his passing would have been the key. The players said that they worked on the offside trap at training before the game and how to run in behind without being offside. And that was the key of the game, which we all knew about it. Why would you not start your best passer when you know this is exactly how you're going to play? Running behind Kylian, running behind Vini, running behind Jude, and I'll find you. And yet, they said they worked on it. So, again, I go back to this point because it really didn't annoy me, but I was very surprised watching the game that all the runs pretty much were all vertical. There was nothing diagonally. They would never bend their run to stay on
the
side.
Old Thierry Henry, for us old timers who remember him as a player and not just as a coach and pundit. He used to have that. He mastered the art where he runs diagonally across the back line, and then or he runs horizontally, across the back line, and then he cuts diagonally.
Yeah.
Right. He mastered that. I don't know if they need to get Mbappe some Henry videos or something.
I don't know. I don't know if Kylian. I mean, I felt for Kylian because, as you know, in a very biased way, as much as I love him and everything, and I wanted him to do so well. And I think that first goal that is disallowed, and rightly so. This is probably the shortest offside that he has of the 8, and it's a great finish, and the celebration, you saw how much it meant to him, and he really wanted to make a mark on that game. Didn't happen, but I just think that he needs also, maybe he just took it for granted that at some point, just with his pace and just by waiting a bit, it would be okay. But Inigo Martinez and Pau Kubasi, to be fair to them, and Koundé and Balde to a certain extent, but especially the two central defenders, were just outstanding on Saturday night. Really, really good.
Yeah, on the outside, I have to make this point about VAR and semi-automatic VAR. All those VAR haters, just please understand, without VAR, if you had a human being there, a little man running up and down the sidelines with a flag, and he was charged with judging those tiny offsides, which, by the way, we saw in the Arsenal game as well. It takes them an hour, and that's with the benefit of video of drawing lines on the pitch, right? Real Madrid would have won this game, I think, if there had been a human. Because you can make a strong case. 90,000 people, home ground. It's been shown. It's physically impossible for a human being to be looking, 60 meters to down the pitch as the ball goes over the top to the exact moment and who's ahead, who's behind. It's just not possible. So they err on the side of the attackers. So I just cannot, for the life of me, whereas I understand this counter argument when it comes to offsides against VAR. And the other thing is, the machines have margins of error. We know this. The machines aren't perfect. I think psychologically, the machine says so, it must be right? We take it as gospel. It's the same thing when they introduced goal line technology. The machine says it's right. Okay, so it's right. So it was a goal or a non-goal, right? All right, whatever. That's a brief digression in this game. But I think it's worth noting. And like I said, the Arsenal game, I thought was the correct decision. But you know what? I don't know. I'm not sitting there drawing lines in 3D and whatever, this nonsense that we're still stuck with because we don't have semi-automatic offside somehow in the Premier League. Taking it back to this Madrid game, all this said, wrong setup, Mbappe, Vini, there were also individual errors, I thought, in the first 2 goals that came in quick succession, and that also changed the game. Ferland Mendy, I don't know if he switches off, he plays him offside for the first goal. And on the second goal, okay, let's credit Robert Lewandowski, he's consummate goal scorer, finding the space. But he's alone with 2 center backs.
Yeah.
And he perfectly, it was a great cross. He is about as far away from the 2 of them as he can be.
Yeah.
Those are major individual defensive errors, which I think somehow got overlooked. At that point, it was 2-0. I'm not saying the rest was garbage time, but they weren't going to come back.
No, you're right. I think it starts even with Bellingham being too far from Balde, and then coming back and still allowing him to cross the ball in that way. And you know what Balde is going to do because this is what he does. And then from a Militao and Rudiger point of view on Lewandowski, I think it's an absolute disgrace. It's almost like if they don't talk to each other, if they don't know where Lewandowski is, and I just can't believe it's a free header in the Real Madrid box like that from across. Coming from that far away is just... And
I think this one, even though I love him, I love you, Tony, but that's more on Rudiger because he can see across.
Yeah, of course.
He can see the distance between me. Militao should still be aware, but that's more on him.
Militao is the cover. Yeah, absolutely.
Turning to Barcelona, and again, I will raise my hands up. I was very skeptical about Flick coming to Barcelona, not because Flick is a bad manager, but because his football is so alien to the way Barcelona have played football before. I mean, we did see a little bit more directness in north-south. Why wouldn't you with Lamine Yamal and Ferran Torres in the Xavi tenure? But still, this very high line is getting the ball and going north-south whenever you have, even at the risk of turning the ball over.
Yeah.
This is a real mentality shift. And I want to make a point, too, about all the injuries he's had and throwing in the kids. How many years, Jules, have we heard, oh, La Masia, they're so good because every single team plays just like the first team and the kids get raised in the La Masia way and blah, 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 and the passing and the extra man and. Yeah, that's not how Barcelona's first team plays. So these kids who go into the first team, not just, Cubarsi and Yamal, Yamal will be fine anywhere, but like Casado has been raised to do something completely different.
Yeah.
And he comes into this game and says, oh, no, look, you're not going to look for the spare man. You're going to hit the ball into space and try to be direct at every opportunity. Even more so, the marginal players who maybe didn't play tonight but have contributed, people like Hector Fort, for example, right?
Yeah.
All these guys, he's managed to quickly teach them to do something completely different. And I think this is a minor miracle of coaching.
Yeah, I think it's been great. I don't know, again, like we said before, if they can last the whole season like that, because it's such an intense style and very demanding style. And maybe at some point, rotation when everybody's back fully fit, like we said on Thursday's show, in terms of midfielders and everybody, even defenders. Araujo is going to come back, Christensen is going to come back, and Gavi and De Jong and everybody. Then he can rest and give a bit of a rest to some players, because I don't know if they can go like this all the time. But it's amazing. I think the fitness work for me first, and it's no surprise that he's also a fitness coach that was in Italy for many, many years. Two, I think this high line is incredible, really is. And we are not a big fan of Inigo Martinez, not because we don't like him, but because we just thought, okay, at his edge, he's a bit slow, but he's mastering this defense. I think they've had 34 offsides so far this season, which is by far the best in the big five leagues. The second team is 23 with 24. And it's just, to have that many difference between them and the way they play and the others is incredible. And then I think when you've got a front three that is so good at the moment, so full of confidence and everything clicks so well, it's easier because they are so efficient. We said it against Bayern. They were, again, apart from the Lewandowski brain freeze, especially on the one that he hits the post in front of an empty goal, they were so good. Everything they do is right. The passing is right. The decision making is right. The movement is right. The runs are right. Everything is just right. It's so impressive.
And let's remind yourselves again, context here. You've probably seen the stat on social media. 6 players aged 21 or under, 2 of them 17-year-olds. I would also add, you have a center forward in Lewandowski, who's 36 years old, and everybody thought was cooked last year. Now I think he has 14 goals already this year, had 19 overall last season. You had arguably their best player this year is Rafinha, a guy who everybody said, no, you need to sell him in the summer.
Yeah,
he's not that good, so that we can get Nico freaking Williams, right?
Yeah.
Where's he now? I don't want to be mean to Nico Williams, great player, but imagine if that had happened. You've got a goalkeeper, Iñaki Peña, who I think they trust so little, mainly because, weirdly, he's actually not very good with his feet, where they decided they panicked after Ter Stegen got hurt. Ter Stegen, by the way, who happens to be their club captain, incidentally. After he gets hurt, that they go and they convince Wojciech Szczesny to come out of retirement.
Yeah.
Szczesny, by the way, also not exactly Beckenbauer with his feet, but that is how little trust there was in Iñaki Peña, right? And then Inigo Martinez, right, who comes as a free agent. He's 32 years old. He's a bit older, a bit slower, and, doesn't establish himself as a first teamer, or certainly in the starting lineup last year. I think only 13, 14 starts in La Liga. These are the people who demolished Real Madrid.
Yeah.
And again, that is a credit to Flick. Now, all that said, you said there's a ton of question marks. We've talked about where do you fit the returning guys as they come from injury. Can you get them to do what the guys who've been playing do? Because I imagine it's easier to go and tell, Fermin Lopez, hey, run yourself into the ground and help us with the pressing game, because we need to press. If we're going to play this high, you have to play high line. You have to press, right? Lewandowski cannot get around the pitch the way he used to, obviously, at 36. So that's what Fermin Lopez did, right? He doesn't have a lot of quality compared to the guy who replaced him, Dani Olmo, but he's running around like a madman. He can't do that for 90 minutes, right? So the question is, when Gavi comes back, can Gavi do it? Can you get Dani Olmo to do it? These are big, big question marks that Flick faces. And also, fundamentally, the high line is always risky.
Yeah.
It's always
they're going to get done, obviously. And they did a bit when he rotated too much against Osasuna, which is the only defeat that they've had in a tricky game where I think he underestimated the opposition. And then we saw what happened. So let's see. But so far, so good.
All right, 6 points and the head-to-head, which, again, they're going to return. Unless you believe Real Madrid are going to have a manita in Barcelona, Barca will have the head-to-head.
Yeah.
We're only, 9 games into the season, so we're roughly a quarter of the way there.
Yeah.
This league is still all to be played for, yeah?
Carlo Ancelotti said it at the end of the game. The last time that Real Madrid lost 4-0 at home to Barcelona, they won the Champions League and La Liga that season. So it's not this doesn't mean it's a massive win. They don't happen very often, but they happen sometimes, and there's still life after, and they will be. But Real Madrid need to. I think they will recruit in January anyway. They have to. They need to wake up massively collectively, and for Barcelona, they just have to keep going again with the question marks that we raised. But when you also have Lamine Yamal in that kind of form, I mean, I just don't know where he will stop, who can stop him, because at 17 to still be able to, and you know what, for the first half hour, Gab, even the first half, let's say, I thought he forced his game. There's a couple of times where he tried to shoot and curl it from the edge of the box, and they were easy. They were better solutions, and I thought he wanted to maybe be the main guy and try too hard to be the main guy. In the second half, he was back to normal fluidity, normal service, and he was just incredible.
You mentioned, there are 2 more points. You mentioned recruitment. Well, if you're Real Madrid, what profile of player are you trying to recruit at this stage?
I think you need to maybe get somebody as close as Cruz as possible, and that won't be easy. And I'm not even sure who they could go for, to be fair. I didn't look into it, but there must be somebody there.
But the profile is a passing midfielder.
Yeah, passing,
a Harry Winks
control the time. Yeah. I mean, let's not put
Maxime Lopez, Harry Winks.
Let's not put Toni Kroos in the same sentence as Maxime Lopez.
No, but genuinely, can I say something? I think for that role, you don't need a Toni Kroos necessarily. I think if you can get the movement of the players around him right, you don't need to have an all-rounder, World Cup winner, or blah, blah, blah. If you can, and you only really, I think, need this in certain situations, somebody to do that, because you still have Modric. So I'm saying if you can't get a superstar, even somebody for some of those games, and maybe in the back of his mind he thought it might be Ceballos or whatever. It's not Ceballos, obviously, right? Again, get a superstar if you can, but if you don't have a spare 80 million lying around because you're giving it all to Kylian, or you've earmarked it for Tread, I think Spain is abundant with midfielders, with little midfielders who can pass in certain situations. I think there's maybe that's another approach.
But then we'll have the same issue if you go and get, I don't know, let's say for the sake of it, Parejo, okay, at his age now, he can do a job, I'm sure, for between January and the end of the season. But then you go next season in the same problem.
No, but
I think this is a team.
No. But then in the meantime, you look for the long-term solution.
But if you can have it in January, may as well have it in January.
Right, but it's a lot difficult to go and shift a superstar in January and a lot more expensive. I think that's the difference.
But left back and centre back, as we saw on Saturday, is also a problem.
Yeah, I mean,
definitely. Even if he's just covered as centre back, because Militao and Rudiger are better than what we saw in that second goal, for example. For Ferland Mendy, I'm not so sure.
Final point, we had to report Lamine Yamal getting racially abused. I'm going to spin this in a positive light, which is that the video came out immediately. It was taken by other people in the stands.
Yeah.
Presumably they weren't doing this to celebrate it, but to point out what they saw. You can identify the guy. Real Madrid are investigating him. And we've always said, or at least I've always said, I want clubs to take action against their own fans. Yes, there are laws. The wheels of justice, both sporting justice and criminal justice, grind very, very slowly. In the meantime, you as a club, you identify a man, and you can identify this guy. He's an absolute tool. He's wearing this ugly jacket, and he's jumping around, and he's shouting, right?
Yeah.
Shouldn't be that hard, right? You know where he is. This is right after Lamin's goal, the goal to make it 3-0, I think. Very easy. You identify him, and you ban him.
Yeah.
That's a big first step.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, enough Clásico. How about some quick hits instead?
Let's go, Gab.
Jules, it's ironic that it should end this way.
Yeah.
Erik Ten Hag has been
Oh no! Why?
he has been let go as manager of Manchester United.
Why? They were improving. He was so good.
Well, it's ironic that it happens after they're kind of screwed over by a bad officiating call in the game against.
Yeah, but the damage was done already anyway, right? I just find it weird that such a great manager who wins trophies all the time, like he says, that plays such a nice brand of football with a defined style, is getting sacked, Finally. He was not good enough. The last 18 months have been really poor. He was mediocre. There was no style to this team. It's the right thing. There's something they should have done in the summer, even after they won the FA Cup, because last season was a bad one already. So
yeah, I think it's pretty obvious. There's a big lack of joined up thinking. The reason I don't like this sacking now is because, as you said, it should have. If you're going to do it, it should have happened before. Instead, they extended his contract. I don't. Tuchel is no longer an option.
No,
unless he's got some magical out clause
Imagine that. Hello, England? Yeah, not for me anymore.
I think there's going to be much more reaction to this. I just think back to his words, right? Lies and fairy tales about his job being in danger. He said that 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, right. He was in denial completely. And so who do you think now could come next to replace him?
I'm going to go...
So Ruud van Nistelrooy is the club has announced that Ruud van Nistelrooy is the interim coach.
Okay.
Just an information.
Like now they're going to go and they're going to have a search. I don't think you can really deal with another throwaway season because remember the clock is ticking on Jim Ratcliffe as well, right? He only has control of the football side for X amount of time. So I don't know if you're going to have a proper search for a proper long-term solution. It's really hard to pick up an unemployed manager at this stage of the season. So if you leave Van Nistelrooy in charge all year long, you'll be in a situation where I think you still need to get into the Champions League. You still need to hit certain targets this season so that you can get a viable big name coach for next year. Like they really painted themselves into a corner with this one. Good news, different people in charge. Berrada, Ashworth, Wilcox. We've all talking about how brilliant you all are.
Yeah.
Jean-Claude Blanc, whoever, right? Now get to work.
Yeah, let's see.
Arsenal and Liverpool battled to a 2-2 draw in North London. Jules, considering the injury situation and Gabriel going down and Timber going down, I think this team showed a ton of character.
Yeah, I thought they played well. Really, really well. I think on another day they can win 2-1 and it's a massive win. So I can understand the frustration because you had no Saliba, no Odegaard, no Calafiori, because you played the last 20 minutes with a back four of Partey, White, Kivior and Lewis Kelly. And that's when you make a mistake as well that cost you that second goal and cost you 2 points and the draw. But I think there's still a lot of positive to be taken. I thought they played well, and despite not winning, and again, there's not much between them two. There's not much between City and Arsenal. There will not be much between Liverpool and City when they play each other on December 1st because they are the three best teams by far in this league. But when you're 2-1 up with 10 minutes to go at home, even with a proper makeshift back four, you should see the game out, I guess.
Yeah, I was wondering why he didn't send on maybe the wingers just for energy a little bit earlier. But then again, I also realized he probably had a situation with his substitution slots because he had to eat up two of them for Gabriel and Timber. And that might be something that he might want to revisit.
Yeah, definitely. And Arne Slot, Gabi decided to switch to a 4-3-3 formation before the game, dropping Szoboszlai to the bench. Were you a bit surprised?
Arne Slot, best bald Dutch manager in the world. We're in agreement. I'm not that surprised. I'm not surprised because Curtis Jones, I thought, played really, really well in the last outing. And I think he said something which, to me, was very humbling, right? Everybody was praising Liverpool. There's this tremendous run from the start of the season. And he basically came out and says, we haven't really played that many top sides.
Nope, that's true.
You could argue about Chelsea where they won, but were
not
outplayed
great.
for stretches.
Yeah.
You could argue Leipzig, but then they're on 0 points in the Champions League.
Yeah.
You could argue about Milan, who were terrible at the time. These are the best teams that they've played. So this was the first real test. I think it was more important to pass it. And look, Jules, we've learned from Arne Slot. We know that the days of Klopp are over. He has a different approach. It is a far more pragmatic approach. He can do the heavy metal Klopp stuff.
Yeah.
But he can also take a step back, play more possession, and be a little more pragmatic too. I was so excited for Marseille against Paris Saint-Germain that I bought the Ligue 1 pass.
I love that.
Well, I actually had to do it because, of course, my Eagles were playing at the same time and they were on Sky and yada, yada, yada.
Yes.
And I had to watch Fiorentina Roma as well. Whatever. I did it for tech issues.
Yes.
But this game was over really quickly thanks to the early goal and that stupid red card from Amin Harit.
Yeah. 20 minutes, the red card. I think it's a really harsh red card. I think it was a massive mistake from the referee. Le Texier, who was the referee of the last Euros final, who is one of the best in the world. But I think on this one, he made a mistake. Before the red card, so in the first 20 minutes, PSG were wiping the floor with Marseille already. They were 1-0 up. They were super dominant and stuff. I don't know what would have happened at 11 against 11, but what we saw at 11 against 10, or 10 against 11, I should say, was not very pretty. PSG 3-0 up at halftime. The first time ever they have a 3-goal lead at halftime. They haven't lost now in Marseille since 2011. They haven't conceded a goal in Marseille in the league since 2017. Yeah, it's a shame because the second half was just pointless. Really.
Can we give a shout out to my man Speedy Barcola, who is the best Paris Saint-Germain left winger since the guy before him?
What, for missing two massive
he set up a goal. He scored the goal at the end. He's always going.
Yeah, no, he's always going.
Okay, what do you want?
Like L'Equipe
He's got
getting 5 out of 10.
Okay, you know what? L'Equipe, hey guys.
No, it's a fair. I disagree with you. It's a fair rating.
Friends of L'Equipe, stick to cycling and rugby, yeah?
That's not true.
Leave football to the people who won more than 2 World Cups.
That's not true. It's a fair rating. He didn't set up a goal to start with. This is not his assist. It's not a goal. It's a cross on the goalkeeper that the goalkeeper fumbles, and then he ends up in Joao Neves. That's not an assist. His goal is a tap-in that you and I, even producer Freddy, would have scored. And then in the second half, he misses 2 massive chances. One where the ball goes
3-0 up.
Where the ball goes into a throw-in for Marseille. Not even a goal kick, a throw-in. So I agree with you. He's amazing, and he's going to be really good. And he's PSG's best player this season. But on that game, he was good and also not so good. So,
I defer to you on Paris Saint-Germain. I just think he's having a great season.
No, he has. But he should have been much better even on Sunday. Inter and Juventus battled to a wild 4-4 draw. Gab on Sunday afternoon. Lost to get into. And I assume Thiago Motta will be the happiest of the 2 managers.
Well, yeah. I mean, Inzaghi looked like he was at a funeral. I mean, look, first of all, that's inevitable. You're 4-2 up. And what I liked about this game is that there are some people who are pointing to it and they're pointing out all the defensive mistakes. And there were defensive mistakes in this game. But what about the spectacle? A 4-4 draw. This was exciting. Inter went ahead, then they were 2-1 down. Then they're 4-2 up.
Yeah.
Some of Inter's defense, Inzaghi got killed for the fact that I think it was on the 3rd goal. They're counter pressing way up the pitch. De Vrij and Bastoni are up there, and they're like, "Why are you doing that?" And like, because this is how modern football is played. You counter press, you try to win it back, and then if you get beaten, hey, you get beaten. Kenan Yıldız came on. He was absolutely devastating with his 2 goals. He may be the best Turkish teenager in the world. Don't hate Real Madrid fans.
I mean, the other one doesn't play.
The other one's not playing much. But and also what we saw from Thiago Motta, and by the way, Juve fans, something to cheer about. He changed it around a little bit.
Yeah.
He played McKennie, who I thought had a really good game.
Yeah,
maybe at fault for one of the goals, but still gave you so much going forward. McKennie and Locatelli together in front of the back 4, Fagioli further up the pitch, so that if you win the ball high, you actually have a guy with quality who can do something with it.
Yeah.
He made a big call on taking Vlahovic off again.
Yeah.
I think there's reasons to be hopeful. You got to take the good with the bad with Thiago Motta.
Especially after the bad result that Juve have had in the last 2 games before.
Absolutely. This is a big comeback. But 0.0 against Stuttgart? Come on, man. That was the XG, of course. Manchester City roll on with a 1-0 win over Southampton. They're top of the table. Jules, Pep said they beat, and I quote, one of the best teams in the Premier League, unquote. Is he laughing behind everyone's back when he says stuff like this, or does he really believe it?
Well, he said that, but added like to defend with the ball, as in they had to press because they moved the ball well, which is true. They do a lot of passes. They have a lot of possession.
They gave up like 2.7 XG in this game. Holland could have had 5 goals
easily, and they don't create much for themselves. I think the XG is 0.2, but. I see his point, but I think he was just being keen to Russell Martin, and you should be as well, because the guy is suffering. They still haven't won a game. They don't even look near like winning a game.
I think they have 1 point this season. Yeah, look, I'm all for teams trying to play the right way, trying to play possession, but he took it to an extreme. I watched this game on the Magic satellite dish, and I was struck. Okay, they had 6 minutes, I think, of time added on. It's literally minute 97 because there was a substitution and whatnot. He sent on Paul Onuachu, who is the size of a building. He's like 2 meters, 6'7". He can probably dunk flat-footed, right? Yeah. Presumably, the reason you have that man on is to get balls to his head that he can knock down or hold up or whatever. Yeah. They get a free kick in the middle of the pitch. Time added on has expired, right? This is literally the last kick of the game. You expect a Hail Mary, boot into the box, see what happens.
Let's go.
3 passes sideways. And then the referee kind of looks dumbfounded and just blows his whistle. This is stuff I really don't get.
Cole Palmer puts on a masterclass again, and Chelsea beat Newcastle 2-1 at Stamford Bridge. Gab, they're 1 point away from Arsenal in 3rd place.
It's a tremendous run. I mean, I think the only game they lost in the run, they lost to Servette in the Europa League, and then obviously, or not the Europa League, the conference even. And of course, they lost to Liverpool. And then City was the first game of the season. Yeah. You are seeing, I think, Manesca's patterns of play. Yeah. You're seeing an identity to this team. I thought Nico Jackson was exceptional again. Yeah. But big shout out to Romeo Lavia. And what do you mean? Big call leaving out Enzo Fernandez. Yes. Is this going to be an issue?
The second game in a row in the league. He didn't start against Liverpool either.
The French League's appeals body ruled in favor of Kylian Mbappe in his dispute with Paris Saint-Germain. But Jules, they're not just going to cut him a check, are they? And in fact, from what I've read, they have no way of enforcing this.
No. I mean, they going to take it to another court and appeal again, if you want, to somebody else, to put it simply. 55 million euros, which is still a lot of money, even for the Mbappe family. That's what
it's a lot of money for Paris Saint-Germain, too.
It is a lot of money for everyone. But, yeah, I'm not sure what the next step is, but I can guarantee you they're not going to pay that now.
So I think Mbappe could take them to an employment tribunal.
Yeah, that's what he's probably going to do.
And basically, while they don't have enforcement powers, the French League, they can do things like they can block Paris Saint-Germain's transfers.
Yeah, they can do that. But I don't think it needs to get that ugly. Bayern needed a pick-me-up after that defeat in Barcelona in the Champions League. So, Gab, a trip to Bochum was just what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, so Bochum are absolutely surreally terrible. Early on, I thought, Bochum are going to take the lead here because Kim Min-jae has a bit of a brain freeze and the guy runs through on goal. He's wide open. And yet somehow, all those people who think that Kim is slow, somehow Kim manages to catch him and clear him at the goal line. Yeah. I think this just made Bayern even angrier.
That was the only moment really for Bochum.
It was the only moment. So they win 5-0. What struck me was the quality of the goals. Yeah. This really felt like Bayern saying, let's just remind ourselves who we are. Michael Olise, tremendous free kick. Leroy Sané, a ridiculous curler.
As when Coman.
Kingsley Coman. Shooting from a million yards out. And Jamal Musiala back, scoring a header, weirdly. Yeah. And also that mazy run, dispensing the magic, which Harry Kane slammed in the back of the net.
5 different goal scorers.
Tottenham Hotspur lose to Crystal Palace, who had yet to win a game this season. Yeah. Jules, this time Ange's substitutions didn't turn things around.
Nothing worked for them. They were so sloppy. They were just beaten in a lot of compartment. Palace could have scored more. Spurs created some chances, of course. But yeah, just off pace at all, completely, which I thought was surprising,
For me, a week ago, we praised them because I think it was against West Ham, right? When he's got that midfield set up with Bissouma, Kulusevski, and Madison. They were getting out-muscled, right? So completely. He makes the change. He sends on Papsar.
Like he did at halftime against West Ham.
For Madison. Against West Ham, right?
Yeah, against West Ham, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, but this time, when you're chasing the game, he takes off both Kulusevski and Madison. Yeah. He brings on Papsar, and then I think it was Richarlison and another winger, right? Yeah. And Werner, I think.
Mickey Moore, yeah.
all of a sudden you don't have a midfielder. You don't. I mean, I'm not saying you don't have midfielders who can pass, but you don't have somebody like a Madison or Kulusevski who can create, which really seemed odd. And I think that's when things got really, really sloppy for them.
I agree. Bayer Leverkusen are held 2-2 by Werder Bremen. Granit Xhaka was furious after the game. Some of the magic come off Xabi Alonso a little bit.
As Ale Moreno would say, 100%.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying it's on Xabi Alonso, but you kept all your big guns. You've added to him with Terrier and whatnot. And Leverkusen are not that good this season. This is a game in which, Werder Bremen are not a good side. They're candidates for relegation, right? They lost the XG battle. The only reason that they were able to equalize was the defender had this weird sliced clearance. Yeah, Wirtz, I think, hit the post at the end, but it's really stopping. And Granit Xhaka, I mean, we know he's outspoken. We've seen him be outspoken.
Yes.
Not for the first time this season. He came in afterwards and he said, "This isn't good enough. Everybody needs to give 10 to 20% more.
Yeah.
I have to be careful with what I say because I don't want to get in trouble."
Yeah.
These are very, very ominous words. He says we have to face reality.
In trouble with his own club, not with the referee or anything. There was no
no. He's being in trouble with his own club, with some of his teammates.
Yeah.
People are throwing Jonathan Tah under the bus because of his contractual situation. Fine, but you have other center backs.
Yeah.
If you don't like Jonathan Tah, they need to look at this, and they've not been good in Europe either.
They were not good either. Yeah.
Jules, Milan had built up some nice momentum. I was expecting them. I was looking forward to seeing them play against Bologna.
Yeah.
But the game was called off due to flooding, bad weather, or expected flooding and bad weather.
Yeah, bad weather coming up, which I think was a bit surprising for some people, especially on the Milan side, because there were still some events taking place not far from in Bologna that went ahead. Not this game, and now it means that the next game for Milan is Napoli in midweek, which means that the suspended players that they would have had for this Bologna game,
like Theo Hernandez,
very important. Now it's
Tijani Reinders,
very important. And a game that Milan could have won against Bologna without two of them two key players. Now they'll be suspended for the Napoli game, which is not as good, obviously, from a Milan point of view.
Yeah, look, I mean, on these things, I always think safety first. It had to do with the idea of the main risk had to do with sort of fans leaving the stadium.
Yeah.
Some people suggested, why don't you just play the game without fans? I'm like, why don't we just give up on fans altogether? That playing the game behind closed doors, I think, would have been just another insult and another I hate the word contempt for match-going fans, but that is exactly what it would have been. So that was a stupid idea. Difficult thing is, Jules, unless they both get knocked out of the Champions League, they're not going to replay this game until late spring.
Yeah.
The match count there is full.
It is full. Napoli roll on with another 1-0 victory this weekend and are now 4 points clear at the top of Serie A. Gab, another minimalist day for Antonio Conte?
Not as minimalist as their win over Empoli last week, when they really were poor. Against Lecce, he rotated a bit because of the midweek games coming up. Obviously, Napoli know European football. And I thought they really took the game to the opposition. They dominated. I think they could have scored more. And I think we're seeing, this is all the hallmarks of that Antonio Conte first season taking over a club that needs to be regenerated, no European football. The stars are all lining up for him at this stage. As well, of course, Inter and Juve taking points off each other. 4 points clear at the top. So far, so good. More woe for Borussia Dortmund as they lose 2-1 at Augsburg. Jules, the clock is ticking on Nuri Sahin. Tick, tock, tick,
and
tock.
I think that clock will stop very soon for him. Gabi, we understood the choice when they appointed him to replace Terzic, and we were happy to give him a chance. It's now 4 months in the season, and it's not good enough. It's as simple as that. It's not happening for him defensively, offensively, despite having a good squad, because this is a good squad.
They took the lead in this game.
Yeah.
I think
Girassi, and Augsburg are not a good team either.
No, they're not. And it felt like Girassi touched the ball like 3 times.
Yeah,
sure
it was
more
terrible.
Than that. But he's completely isolated. Defensively, they're still a mess. In midfield, Nemecha was terrible again. But you know what, Jules? All these years of people praising, remember like 5-6 years ago, like, oh, Borussia Dortmund, oh, they're so smart, they're so clever, oh, masterclass, Zorc, blah, 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 Pulisic, Bellingham, Sancho. Zorc is gone. But these other people who replaced them, it can't just be the manager always who's a dud.
No,
right?
that's true. That's true.
I think, they need to, Hans-Joachim Watzke, who is super respected and whatever, I'm not saying he's the problem, but he has to be the guy who finds a solution. I think he needs to do a top-to-bottom review on the sporting side. Why do they keep appointing, whether it's they keep appointing the wrong people or whether they have the wrong people upstairs with the players they sign? I don't know.
Maybe.
But there's just such a bad vibe around this club.
I think Zorc might be coming back, to be fair. One of the games of the weekend, Gabi, Fiorentina destroyed Roma 5-1 on Sunday night. Everything that could have gone wrong for Roma did go wrong.
Yeah, and look, Everton fans, if you want to get a glimpse of what your potential future owners are dealing with right now,
as well,
they are getting absolutely killed. Now, on to the game. Moise Kean, unplayable. He's happy. He's found his new youth. This was so bad that after half an hour, Ivan Juric took off Cristante and Angelino. When you take off two starters after 30 minutes, either you're Jose Mourinho or you're admitting that you need a big shock because something's gone wrong and you don't know what to do.
Massively.
He sends out Mats Hummels for his debut. This was a disaster class, I think, as they call it.
Yeah, one goal after 4 minutes.
There is just such a sense of drift, and I don't think that it's Juric who's bad. And and they were decent. I thought in the Europa League they were okay. It's just the fans. When they get back to Rome, their next home game, the fans are going to be absolutely furious. To be clear, this is a club right now that they do not have a CEO. They have a manager who goes out there and speaks, but is completely undermined every which way.
Yeah.
There's a sense of the club being absent. They do have a sporting director.
French.
He happens to be French.
Yeah.
Gisolfi.
He's very good, but
I'm sure he's very good. He doesn't speak.
No.
Nobody's seen him. I'm sure he's working behind the scenes. I wouldn't blame him for not speaking. People say, people say, he doesn't speak Italian. I find that hard to believe that somebody who's been in the game as long as he has doesn't speak enough Italian or Spanish to fumble his way through a press conference. At least say something. Make a statement. Make your presence felt. There's talk of bringing Daniele De Rossi back. I don't know if he wants to come back. You know what this feels like? This feels like, and this is the big indictment, and the Friedkins, of course, they never speak to the media, so we have no idea what they're doing. Sometimes they allow themselves to be photographed with a guy flying his own private jet.
Yeah.
Okay, right, very cool. But they're destroying all the goodwill. The sold-out stadium that they had when Mourinho was there. It almost feels like when they put Mourinho in charge, and look, they've spent a ton of money, and it's their own money, and they need to get credit for that. It's almost like when they put Mourinho in charge, they sort of abdicated responsibility for everything around them. And then they said, oh, look, now it's time to sack Mourinho because we can no longer afford him. The results don't justify keeping him financially. I mean, so let's bring in Daniele De Rossi. They love him. They get De Rossi. They give him a 3-year contract. They fire him 2 months later. And they're like, oh, let's leave De Rossi in charge because, the fans love him. Guys, if you own a club, you need to run the club.
Yeah.
You can't keep changing your CEOs, your directors constantly.
Absolutely.
It is really, really messy. And this is the last thing Everton need. And some people, and there's such a backlash. People are saying, oh, they've lost interest because they're all focused on Everton. I'm not sure how much they were focused on Roma before, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing, but they're just so difficult to understand. A late header from Evan Nielsen means Aston Villa are held at home by Bournemouth. Jules, Unai Emery says they deserve 3 points. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. They were the better team. Really, even if they didn't create that many top chances, I thought they scored a goal that was rightly ruled out because the ball had come out. And it was a goal kick, but they were still better than Bournemouth, who had nothing for most of the game until that late free kick and the header. Great header, by the way, from Evan Nielsen. Good to see him scoring and being influential. But for Villa, 2 big points dropped, and now they go to Spurs on Sunday, and that's not going to be easy.
Yeah, I know. Ange is going to be wound up.
Yeah, as well, exactly. Atalanta, Rome to a 6-1 win over Verona. Gab, they were 5-0 up at half-time.
Yeah, and look, we know with Atalanta, it's feast or famine, right? And by the way, I'm thinking about Atalanta against Barcelona's high line coming up soon in the Champions League.
Yeah, Retegui.
This could be a game where anything happens. Retegui, I think it's 9 goals this season.
Yeah,
I don't know where that came from. I love the fact they're 5-0 up and they did not run up the score because they really could have. Even your boy, the Prince, Charles de Ketelaere.
Oh, I love it.
So what a goal. So much subtlety. Look, they're fun to watch. Now,
they are.
It's the usual thing. They need define that consistency, which they don't always have. But I think they're right up there. And I think in terms of their style of play, people have said this, they are probably the most European or Europe-friendly of the Serie A sides.
Yeah. In terms of intensity as well.
Not surprisingly, they're Europa League champions.
Yeah.
Jose Maria Jimenez's own goal condemns Atletico Madrid to a 1-0 defeat at Betis, and they slip down to 4th in the table. Jules, I was not impressed with El Cholo's crew.
No, they were not good again. It's not the first time we said that. We said it last weekend. We said it in midweek against Lille in the Champions League. They're not good. They can't defend like they used to, and they don't attack well either. He played Alvarez and Griezmann up front at the start yesterday, and this was very poor, very poor. There's not much happening with the ball. I know they're not going to sack him, but I would love to see this squad with another manager, somebody with different ideas, with a different method.
A different center forward, because I've had it up to here with Julien Alvarez.
Maybe, but I think to play him as a like that as the main line, and then playing somebody off him like Griezmann or Correa, whoever you want, you need to be so dominant with the ball. Otherwise, it's never going to work, and that's not what they are.
But you're right. But this is the mystery, right? So Alvarez, devastating when he had the whole Pep City machine setting him up. Devastating when he had, devastating in a World Cup. When he had that Messi guy slipping balls through to him. But in normal circumstances, when he has to go and fight for himself on this team, he looks like a foreign object.
Yeah, it is hard. Leipzig come from behind to beat Freiburg 3-1 and stay top of the Bundesliga, level on points with Bayern. But Gab, this was a bit nervy. Because
Freiburg went a goal up, and Freiburg are not a bad side. Freiburg would have passed them in the table had they won this game.
Good start of the season, yeah.
No Xavi Simons either. By the way, so we're talking about teams we don't expect to have a great start to the season. Do we need to make producer Freddie
Union
happy
Berlin?
by mentioning Union Berlin?
Yes, of course.
Up there in the top. Maybe they won't get relegated this year.
Yeah, well done.
In the end, a 3-1 victory, much better, I thought, after the break. I think Siemens missing is a big miss. And remember, this is a team that are still on 0 points in the Champions League.
Yeah, after 3 games,
Monaco lose their first match in forever in all competitions as Nice come from behind to win whatever this derby is. The Riviera derby?
Mediterranean.
Yeah. So like when they play Marseille, what's that called? Is that the south of France? Is that the Côte d'Azur derby?
Yeah, that's it, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the Côte d'Azur derby.
And if they play Caen?
That's a good question. There must be a name as well. I just don't know.
Menton, Joan Le Pen?
No? I mean, it's less probable that this will happen.
All right. But anyway, the Vanderson's red card was the turning point.
Yeah, it changed everything. Monaco losing for the first time this season, as you said, but also for a very long time. I'll let you reveal who they lost against last. But before that, just on the game, the red card obviously changed massive. I think also the fact, even if Nice played on Thursday in the Europa League, I think Monaco left also quite a lot of energy in the Champions League game in midweek as well. But Nice, who hadn't won in 6 or 7 games in a row before that, I thought were really good in the way they came back into the game, even the second half, because Monaco could easily have beaten them just with 10 men. That's how good they've been this season so far. So, well done to them.
Look, I love to make fun of Adi Hütter, as you know, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But their last defeat, as you said, was April. 6 months in all competitions without losing. And you know who beat them last time?
Go on.
It was Lyon. That's right. It was John Texter's boys.
PSV Eindhoven beat PEC's Zwolle 6-0, Gabby, this weekend. 10 wins out of 10 for Peter Bosch in the league.
Yeah. And it's time for me to eat more humble pie. Us to eat more.
Everyone.
Okay. Can we say he is not bottom of the pile of bald Dutch managers anymore?
Yeah, I think so.
You would take Bosch ahead of Jaap Stam?
But would you still take it to your club? You wouldn't, right? Because this is fine, but in the Eredivisie.
There was a summer. I think they lost Lozano. They basically hung on to it. So you expect them to be better to build on it. But again, 10 wins out of 10 is not something to take for granted.
No, but they did it last year already. So
All right, still not impressed, Peter. I'm sorry, but sorry.
No, it's great. I'm just saying.
Sorry, if Jim Ratcliffe appears to you in a dream and said, Jules, should I continue with my current bald Dutch manager, or should I replace him with a bald Dutch manager from PSV Eindhoven? I cannot get the bald Dutch manager for Liverpool for obvious reasons. Yeah. Who should I get?
I said keep your money, Jim. Keep your money. Don't do the swap.
All right, you'd still have Ten Hag over Peter Bosz.
Yeah, I
okay.
think so.
Kevin Danso gives up a
Oh,
controversial
love it.
late penalty, and Neil sneak a victory in the Northern Derby, Jules. Is that what it's called? The Derby of the North?
Derby du Nord, yeah.
There you go. Lens against Lille. I feel bad for him. And I feel bad for our buddy, Lens owner, Joseph Gourlian, who we're still waiting to join us on the show.
Yeah, he will come one day. 98th minute, that penalty in a game where Lens, especially in the first half, were the better team. They were so good, so intense. The atmosphere was incredible. And yeah, 98th minute, Kevin Danso gives away a penalty that maybe a little harsh.
It was very harsh because it's one of those things where, yeah, I know, but like, what's he supposed to do with his body?
I agree. And then later on, 3 minutes later,
time.
101 minutes, 2-0. It's no, they didn't deserve to lose that way. We'll still first defeat for Lens this season in the league, and that one is gonna hurt. MLS are reportedly considering switching to a European calendar and take summer off. Gab, good idea?
So I know why MLS are on the calendar that they are. Let's be very clear about this. They're on this calendar essentially for two reasons. One is because large parts of the north of the United States are frozen tundras in winter, and it's really difficult. You'd be constantly rescheduling games in places like Chicago or Boston.
Or play like in minus 15 under the snow.
Yeah, or play indoors or whatever. Do all these weirdo things that you don't want to be doing, right? That's part of the reason. The other part of the reason is that, let's face it, in the summer, from the time of the NBA draft, which is in mid-June, until training camp in the NFL, which is late July, there's absolutely nothing going on other than Major League Baseball, where the average age of the audience is in the 60s, plus Todd Bowley. So, so they say, hey, look, we get the stage all to ourselves. Now, the reason it doesn't work so much is that I think fans, or the reason this has come in play is fans are also a bit educated, and they say, yeah, wait a minute, it's also really hot and humid and nasty. So all the games have to be played in the south of the United States. Most of the games are played at night.
Yeah.
That's not always ideal. Also, it's the summer. I don't know about you, but like, I don't really watch sports over the summer. It's not really like, you'll watch the World Cup, maybe you'll watch Wimbledon, whatever. But like, it's kind of like a dead zone. Like you're outdoors doing other things.
And you're on holidays too. So that's it. Yeah.
And you're on holidays. So I don't know what the problem is, it's such a big place. You can't find the perfect climate, right?
Yeah.
What they could look into, what might make sense, is to split it up and have what they do in Argentina with the Apertura, or Mexico, and have an Apertura and a Clausura. So in other words, have almost two separate tournaments.
Yeah.
Maybe you can have a playoffs at the end, combining the two. Have two mini seasons in one.
Yeah.
With proper breaks in between. Maybe that's how you can do it, and have a break in the summer. I don't want to see, look, far be it for me to criticize, but I will, because that's what I get paid to do. MLS playing as they did in 2018? I'm blanking on this now. The last World Cup that the US was at before 22.
Yeah.
Right? Do you remember when MLS kept going during the World Cup?
Yeah.
I know they do that in Brazil too, whatever, but like, what kind of message does that send about what is still your premier domestic league for now, because USL is coming up behind?
I know.
I think they need to have a rethink about this and start having these serious conversations. FIFA have announced there will be a mini transfer window between the end of the 2024-25 season and the beginning of the Club World Cup, which is basically 3 weeks later. And then they'll have the proper transfer window again. So presumably this is so that some clubs, perhaps not the big European clubs, but other clubs could maybe make some short-term signings, like maybe, I don't know, Cristiano Ronaldo could be out of contract. Maybe you bring him in to play for Jubilo Iwata or whoever it is. I don't even know if they're there, probably not. For Urawa Red Diamonds. I think Urawa Red Diamonds have qualified.
This has to be a joke, right? Surely this is not possible.
It is not a joke.
Is this like a fantasy football where you just draft your players and bring them in just for 1 week and then sell them on? This is not serious. How can you have a competition where players who don't actually belong to those clubs but just sign for 1 month to play a few games? How
Jules, you seem horrified by
But
this.
I think this is just a terrible idea to the point that when you wrote it and I read it, I was like, this is not true,
So is
surely.
it April Fools?
Yeah, or something like, because I was going to say to you, I'm not sure I really understand. Is this for real where you can, exactly like in a fantasy game that you play for NFL or NBA or football, the Premier League, whatever, where you can just have a player for 1 week because you fancy like, hey, he might score goals against X or Y. And then I can't believe
Okay,
that.
so-
How do you want to take this league
Alright.
this tournament
Okay.
seriously then?
All right. In case this gets clipped and producer Freddie puts it on social, I will play devil's advocate right now.
Okay, please do, because I don't know how you can.
Okay.
even.
So I think this is the argument. This comes at the end of a long, long season where some players might be tired, maybe some players might be injured. And so to maintain the level, maybe you can sign somebody just for that month. If I'm Manchester City, for example, I won't have Rodri, but I'll have Rodri next season. So maybe I can sign somebody for 1 month to come and pretend maybe I can sign Zubimendi for 1 month to fill in for Rodri, right? So that way Zubimendi's Real Sociedad are happy because, hey, look, I get some money. Zubimendi's happy. Look, I get to play
Real
in a couple
Sociedad
of
would be happy that the player doesn't have a holiday. Go
Who?
and play. So you said Real Sociedad would be happy. So
Well,
what?
Real Sociedad will sell them to Liverpool anyways. They're not going to care.
Yeah, but-
No, just kidding.
So they would
But-
be happy that the players goes, instead of going on holidays to the beach with his family to rest and recover, he goes and played a
We
tournament
can
with his
mess and
team.
recover after the tournament like the other players.
But the league starts 3 weeks later, so he's not going to recover.
Okay, but that's a problem for any team that's
But
playing in
yeah,
the World Cup,
but
right?
even less if you bring in new players who are not in this competition in the first place because you have this mini transfer window.
Okay. Well, what about some of these teams from Asia,
Yeah.
or from the CONCACAF regions, or even from Africa? What if, for example, Mamelodi Sundowns, or
Yeah.
no, who? Okay, again, I should know the teams. I do not. Maybe there's a Nigerian team. Maybe Kano Pillars are there. I don't know. They say, "Hey guys, we're in the Club World Cup. What if we signed Victor Osimhen for 1 month? Wouldn't that be cool? Then they could become competitive, and then maybe there'd be a better competition, more star power. And look,
No.
the biggest star of all, Cristiano Ronaldo, right? What if you could have a Ronaldo versus Messi reunion? Inter Miami against Western Sydney
But
Wanderers.
why would
teams out of
Cristiano
my
go
backside.
goes and play for the team from Sydney
Because he's going
to
to be a
get
free
smashed
agent.
in this competition
He won't.
with
Maybe
a
he-
bad team?
Maybe he won't get smashed. Because
But he
maybe,
will.
Maybe he'll bring some friends from Al Nassr with
Oh
him.
my god!
I don't
this
know.
Is, even you know this is an absolute joke that makes no sense whatsoever.
But the idea,
FIFA have had bad ideas recently, but this mini transfer window, I'm all for the Club World Cup. I told you I like more football. I know for the players it's not ideal. I don't know how clubs are going to manage it. Everything okay. Let's go get to that bridge when he's
let's cross that bridge.
Cross that bridge, exactly. But this mini transfer window is appalling. I'm sorry. This is ridiculous. Roberto Mancini has been sacked as manager of Saudi Arabia, Gab, and will be replaced by Hervé Renard, who's coming back to manage the team.
His daughter Wendy's going to be an assistant, right?
Maybe if she's not too busy with the French women's national team.
Hey, so how old is she now?
33?
Oh, okay.
She
really?
started when she was like 16 or something. That's why.
right.
So what's next for Mancini then? What do you see for him?
Well, I think not managing, and he's certainly not going to manage it.
Definitely
after what
not.
happened. Certainly not managing in a place like Saudi, because it's just the wrong fit for him. He got bad results.
Yeah.
He complained a lot, and I think some of his complaints, because that's how Mancini rolls, some of his complaints I think were valid, like the fact that with all the foreign players coming in the Saudi Pro League, he's like, I don't have guys to pick from, which I think is fair enough.
Yeah, it's a fair point.
Equally, you're Saudi Arabia, you should be like Korea, like Japan, like the other powerhouses in Asia.
Yeah.
You should be qualifying like Australia. You should be qualifying at a canter. And whenever you don't, chickens come home to roost. He's going to come back an even richer man. I think he's a phenomenal coach. I think
I
he can be
agree.
really, really good.
In the right project.
Like Manchester United, perhaps.
Oh, I love that.
Who's the last
Mancho.
manager to coach both City and United? To win a title with both City and United? I don't know that there has
Wow.
been one.
I don't think
Did
so.
you go, Mancini? No, I'm
I
kidding.
don't know.
I don't know. He can also be a difficult personality to deal with, so
Yeah,
that's the
but-
downside. But I think the way he won the Euros, he's shown that he can play great football.
Yeah.
He has the personality for big clubs. He has a lot going for him. I don't think the Saudi thing people are going to hold against him. They may hold against him the way he walked out
Yeah, the
on
way
the Italy job.
he left Italy, yeah.
And the fact that his personality can be a bit prickly, shall we say.
Yeah.
Nominees for the Africa Player of the Year are in, Jules, some, like our producer, Freddie Arrington, who is English, I believe. He was surprised that Nico Jackson and somebody named Mohamed Salah weren't on the 10-man shortlist. Neither is Victor Boniface, for example.
Yeah, I think Freddie is right, and a lot of people were quite shocked by this. I mean, we can read you the 10-man shortlist.
This is an AFCON.
Yeah, exactly.
This is an
as
AFCON
simple
list.
as that. It's not the player of the year over the calendar year or even the season, if you want. This is who did well or who did okay, who did better in AFCON than anything else in that season, because you've got Gueri, Tapsoba, Adingra, and Bemba. Some of them who don't play at all this season, like Mbemba, Girassi, Hakimi, Rahimi, Lukman, Trustekong, and Rowan Williams, the South Africa goalkeeper, who is so good at penalties. This is a list that I just cannot believe Boniface, Salah, amongst others, are not in.
Now, I take your point there. In terms of the winner, who would you give it to? Would you give it to one of these guys who aren't on the list?
No.
Would you give it to Salah or Nico or Boniface? Because I would not.
I mean, Boniface has a really good winning the league and going to the final. So I would give it to Lukman because he has to
give
be one.
it to Lukman.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. But I
Lukman
think Boniface,
and maybe Girassi.
Or maybe Girassi, but Lukman is still ahead of Girassi for me. But
so I have less of a problem with the exclusions of the other. But it does feel like they're sending a message about Boniface, Nico, and maybe even Mohamed Salah.
Maybe, yeah. Staying in Africa, Gabi, Nigeria have been awarded the points against Libya. Remember the game that was not played because there were terrible conditions for them to travel to. Are you okay with this?
Yeah, I mean, presumably they had an investigation and they said, wait a minute, why did you divert the flight to another airport? Why did you then not let the Nigeria players leave the airport, leave them there for 14 players? You know this is no way to prepare for a game. You have a responsibility. You need to give a good... To look after your visiting team. You're the host. Yep. Host means you're hosting. They're your guests. This didn't happen, and I think they made the right call here. Jules, we had injury time winners. We had so many in the Premier League. Injury time winners in West Ham against United and Brentford against Ipswich. Yep. Injury time equalizers in Villa against Bournemouth, Brighton against Wolves. That was actually 2-0 to 2-2, which was pretty mad. Yeah. And Everton against Fulham. My man Beto. How about that?
He cried, love him.
Any grand unifying theory to explain this?
Absolutely not. No. It's the Premier League. This is the best league in the world. Anything can happen at any time, even late in games.
Okay. That's not what makes it good, is unpredictable stuff happening, because that could be car crash stuff.
Some people are tired.
Statistical variance.
Yes.
That's all it is. Jules, the Ballon d'Or is awarded in Paris in a few hours on this Monday. What do you make of Manchester United asking Manchester City to give a ride in their chartered jet to Alejandro Garnacho and Kobbie Mainoo, who have been nominated for, I guess, one of the Young Player Awards?
Yes. Did they want a freebie? Did they just want to send their players but not pay? So they said to City, hey, why don't we just jump in on your flight?
I think they were willing to pay their share, but they wanted to limit their carbon footprint.
That's good. I appreciate that. We mentioned before that often on international duty, teams kind of like team up to bring their players back from South America, from Europe, from Africa, from everywhere. So this will not be new and the first time. And I suspect all United and City players know each other. Some are really good friends, even if they played for rivals. But if there's no room in the jet, in the private jet, there's no room.
And there's no room because City, between the men's and the women's team, have no fewer than 8 nominees.
You see?
I'm assuming there's hangers-on and family members and stuff like that.
Cheeky and Pep probably is going, and Ferran Soriano.
Pep need to go.
Well, no, you always send your manager, sporting director, all the hierarchy at the club is also going. Don't send just your players. Your director of comms
wait, but United were only going to send these 2 guys.
Yeah, because they're not going to win.
Hand luggage only, by the way, Alejandro.
Yeah, you're always so negative about the Ballon d'Or. You are. But I feel somehow this might be changing. He should change to say something nice if he's actually changing.
Okay, so, I read this interview in the Times with Vincent Garcia, who's the guy who runs the whole
lovely
shebang.
Man, very lovely man.
So he seems like an eccentric man too. So there's a couple things here that he said. One, you might have seen the leaks. We've said we expect Vinicius to win it. He says it's impossible for there to be leaks because apparently when people vote, and as you know, it's journalists from in the men's award from the top 100 FIFA nations. They have some special log on. It's encrypted, and they vote electronically, and it goes into some sort of database, which is a special code, which only Vincent Garcia in the whole world. If he were to be kidnapped by aliens, there would be no Ballon d'Or winner because we could never get in. Yeah. I think he's kind of laying on a bit thick. I'm sure there's some, IT nerd
I believe him.
that could probably
I
get
believe
him.
him.
But the other thing he said was, he addressed the issue of popularity contests, and he says, look, the players, like he says what you say, like the players care about it. It's a spectacle, blah, blah, blah. But he did say that he wants journalists to be objective.
Yeah. To avoid the votes that we've seen in the past where they voted for you and I as number 1 and number 2, right?
Right. That happened a long time ago, and I think the award was kind of a sham a long time ago. I mean, I still think it is what it is. It's a popularity contest. However, what's interesting, he mentioned the voter from Argentina who last season in his top 5, he put 4 Argentine players. Messi, it was Messi, Lautaro, Julien Alvarez, and somebody else. And he says, like, I looked at his vote and I decided he was not being objective. And so I took his vote away and there's somebody else. And I love this idea of Vincent Garcia as like judge, jury, and executioner. And then I looked to see who that was.
Oh, Marcotti? Who did you vote for? Okay, no.
You made a mistake.
Out.
No, just since elections are a big theme these days. I thought that was interesting. But anyway, so it was our colleague from ESPN Argentina, Kike Wolf. And I just wanted to remind people that Kike Wolf, I'm not going to get into the merits of his vote, but I'd completely forgotten this. He made that transition from Kike Wolf was a footballer.
Okay.
Capped 27 times for Argentina. Okay. Played for Real Madrid for 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And then humbly goes into our profession of journalist. A bit like what you did, except you didn't actually play for Real Madrid and play for Argentina 27 times. You made the shift at an earlier age. And I love that. And he had a long and storied career. He's 75 now. So shout out to Kike Wolf.
We love you. But
I love the fact, though, anyway, whatever. You may disagree with his vote last year, but I love the fact that there are ex-pros who decide to go into this profession and take it very seriously and very professionally. And that's all I wanted to say about Kike Wolf.
Very true.
Except maybe for the Ballon d'Or vote.
Well said, yeah.
Jules, this brings us to an end, but we got to come back on Thursday.
Oh, yes.
Because... we got what's that? No, we have midweek football. We have the Pokal in Germany. Yeah. Lots of stuff going on. And I believe you'll be going to visit you're going to Texterland. Is that right?
Texterland on Wednesday. I'm there all day. Yeah, if you're
in Lyon.
Yeah, exactly.
Go say hi. Go find them. Until then, love the game. Love your neighbor. Love yourself.